Everyone, and welcome back to what is the plenary room. Today we're going to be talking about third stream income, and we'll be reflecting with these panel members what their experiences are at their respective universities, and hopefully you can draw some lessons from what they're doing and what you could be replicating, obviously within context within your universities. A reminder that the exhibition space is probably still buzzy, as well as breakaway room A and B. So please make sure that you make use of your device and choose channel 00 in order for you to be able to hear us with some clarity. As previous speakers indicated before, if a question pops up in response to something that has been said now, please don't hesitate to put up your hand. We'll get a microphone to you and get you to have that question answered for you, instead of waiting until the end when everything else has been discussed. So you are most welcome to just put up your hand and do so. I will start off by introducing our panel members, and then we'll obviously start by asking a basic question. They'll have a few minutes to present their case, and then we'll take the conversation from there. All right. Next to me is Heather Reganis, who is a fundraising specialist and spent many, many years working for a variety of universities, but particularly Wits University. In fact, 22 years ago, she was the brains trust, if you like, behind establishing an enterprise development office within Wits University. And at the time, arguably, they were the first one and the only one in the country to do that. Next to her is Tsabiso Letsuela, CEO of UNISA Enterprise. It's literally a couple of days old, so we'll be finding out the opportunities and the challenges in establishing an enterprise development unit within a university. And next to Tsabiso, we have Ashley Francis, who's the Executive Director of Finance at UCT. And it was 3 years ago that they established a commercial development arm within the finance office. We'll talk about the benefits to that, having it sitting within the finance office, or does it need to be a separate unit, as UNISA, for example, is looking to establish, and what you can exploit from those opportunities. So, gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to this panel.
Thank you. Good day.
Fantastic. Ashley, I think we'll start off with you. It was 3 years ago when, in your role as finance director of UCT, you decided we're living in a time when fees must fall was probably growing in popularity. We had no clue what government's response to it was going to be. It was a time when grant funding from government was not growing in response to the growing needs from your population of students and research and everything that goes into it. And you needed to find alternative sources of funding. And then 3 years ago, you started the commercial development arm within your office. Why within your office, and what have been some of the lessons and opportunities exploited as a result of that?
No, thanks, Africa. So it's very clear. I mean, you're correct. When I took office in 2015, it was very clear that we couldn't be dependent in the long run on government subsidizing us. Now, the commercial arm of a university is not going to substitute state funding, and it's not going to substitute student fees. At UCT, between student fees and state funding, that covers 85% of our revenue. And so when you introduce commercial development, it's more so to look at sustainability. But when you look at what we target at UCT, we target a 3% of revenue as a surplus. And so in today's terms, that will equate to roughly about 110 million rand. And so the idea was, let's allocate all of our income from state and from student fees to the academic project. And then let's attempt to utilize commercial development opportunities to cater for the surplus which we're targeting, which is about 110 million. And in my case, we are targeting about 150 million clean profit from commercial enterprises into the general operating budget. So what we then did was to form a division within finance. And the strategy there was, let's not go big bang approach. Let's look at certain things that where the opportunities and the low-hanging fruits are quite clear to us, and make sure that it works. So we embarked on that. Hospitality was a very important area for us. So we have 2 hotels in our stable, One is in the waterfront. We created another hotel in Mowbray near the River Club in 2015. We're busy building a conference center at the moment. We started a food business. We into vacation accommodation. So hospitality, as an example, is an area we focused on. But we decided to start small and get the momentum within the commercial development unit. When we started the food business this year, we decided to start with 9 stores, but to put that into a separate legal entity. Ultimately, we intend putting all of our commercial enterprises under one roof, under one legal entity. But we believe that we will get there once the momentum and the maturity of those enterprises are established.
And what pressure does this place on your resources within the office? Because you're all accountants, you're not hotel managers, you're not food processing managers, you're not conference facility managers. How I imagine you had to outsource a lot of that expertise to obviously help you with these businesses that you established.
So the model that I run with in finance is I surround myself with the best possible experts in the field. So I'm talking finance, procurement, all of those things. When it comes to commercial development, it's very important to surround yourself with the best that Cape Town has to offer, even what the country has to offer. So we went through a process in 2015. We found somebody who should have had the skills to start something from scratch, but at the same time understand the complexity of a university. A university is not set up to run a business. They're there for the academic project, and so when you try to establish commercial development opportunities within an academic project, it is very, very difficult and very, very complex. So you need a person with a mindset who's entrepreneurial, commercially minded, but understanding of the complexity of a university. So first port of call was to find the right person. And at UCT, we feel we found the right person. Unfortunately, he's resigned and is leaving the end of next month, but we will find another person for the next wave.
Has another university poached him?
Not another university, but we won't go into that detail. Definitely not a university.
Cool.
But he created enough momentum in terms of what was established at UCT for him to venture forth on other opportunities. But be that as it may, surrounding yourself with the best in the industry is very, very key. So as I mentioned earlier, that hospitality is an area that we're getting into. Hotels, conferencing, etc. And we're just about to employ a director for hospitality. And this will be a person straight from the industry, an expert in the field, who will then run hospitality under the umbrella of commercial development.
You mentioned the figure 150 million rand that you need as a surplus. How close are you to that figure from the current commercial enterprises that you guys are running?
So if I had to include the hotel in the waterfront, the hotel in Mowbray, plus the other areas that we're focusing on at the moment, then we're probably close to 50 million clean profit.
50 million?
50.
50, yeah.
We believe that we're on target for in the next 3 years to get to 150 million clean profit. I still think that the number could be beyond that, but 150 million is achievable, it's practical, it's possible. But yeah, we more than likely will exceed that.
No, for sure. Now, Heather, you started all this 22 years ago.
Careful, careful. I adore you, Africa, and I'd like to adopt you. But I actually was employed by Wits Enterprise, which started, and I roughly think it was about 22 years ago. It's got a very generous donation from a life insurance company. And I was only with them for about 6 months before I moved on to another position in the university. But what we found was that the academics who came to see us to ask for our help may well be in a bit way off beam for the time. I hope I'm making sense. Whereas I believe Enterprise's duty is to scratch beneath the surface of the university and find the gems with the academics and bring them forward. And that means that you have got to, for all of the attributes you believe this person should have, the most important will be to understand the culture of the university and how to work with the academics and encourage them. Because a lot of academics will take a brave step forward and then go, oh, nee dankie. But I moved on from there. But I do think that you need to have a healthy fund to start. You can't start an enterprise division in a university if you haven't got allocated funds towards it, because you do need expertise, you do need frontline space. Nobody wants to go to an enterprise division that's in the basement of the nuclear energy section.
Yeah.
So you do need to invest if you're going to do this. You need kickstart funding.
Now, a lot of what Ashley was reflecting on was, as he called them, low-hanging fruit. Cape Town is a tourism destination. Conferencing is very thriving and, you know, vital and all of that. Food security is obviously an important element as well, so they're going into food. Are there opportunities within the academic space, though, where academics who are doing research, I don't know, the latest form of glass, can go to a glass company and say, let's work together here and help the university realize a profit somehow from whatever research is conducted? Or does that cross the bounds of
No, I think you
ethics?
can. So, for example, with mechanization of mining, it was done together with a unit that had to pay for itself. And so they were selling expertise, and the mines that were going to be using what they had bought were paying for it. So it was a symbiotic win-win situation. And I think those are the unique times, is when you can take the academic brilliance and place it firmly within the marketplace to generate funding for the university.
And can that funding still be used for a whole lot of other operational sort of everyday experiences
That might be
the
a prob-
finance director is sitting with the guy, I don't know where the money for that is going to come from.
That might be a problem. That
Yeah.
might be a problem, yes.
You're starting a new enterprise altogether. A couple of months into it, what are some of the scary, challenging moments? And more importantly, what are some of the more exciting, opportunity-presenting moments?
Well, I can't really say, Africa, thank you very much. I can't really say scary, but obviously there's been a lot of, inside fighting. Obviously I come from the corporate sector, and I'm there to set up an enterprise, and an enterprise in terms of the thinking is more business-minded, and then you have obviously the academic. So you can imagine the challenges. But I think as far as setting up an enterprise is concerned, the strategies or the strategic pillars are the same as in setting up any other business, okay? But I think before I could maybe get into the strategic pillars, I think it's very important to understand some of the fundamental issues.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that is very important is to actually understand the policy. You have to start looking at the policies that actually support third stream income, okay? So at UNISA, I found out that obviously there wasn't such policies that were actually supporting the enterprise. And you'll understand where it's coming from. I mean, the guys were not thinking enterprise before.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I think one had to basically look into. I sort of caught up a little bit later. But policy becomes very important. So the policy has to support what you're trying to do. The second thing as well, I think, is to define what you mean by third stream income. Because some people could say that third stream is everything outside government subsidy and tuition,
School fees, yeah.
but excluding maybe CSI, okay? So you have to define your own. And some people could say it excludes investments, So you almost have to come in and define your own from the onset. I think that paves the way quite nicely. Then the other thing as well is obviously the budget. I think Ida was talking about. You have to have a separate budget. So at UNISA, we looked at convertible loan agreement, and obviously we're driving this quite hard to make sure that it's actually profitable. And something also very important that has been said by the speakers as well is to separate the academic and the commercial. So you'll see that at UNISA, we have our own board of directors. We're going to set up our own offices away from the university so that we can actually then be able to have that agility.
Wait, physically away from the
Physically,
university?
absolutely.
Because Heather a moment ago was saying, don't place them at the bottom of some nuclear science building.
Absolutely.
Give them prominence. But my understanding was that prominence within the university still.
university.
Why are you physically removing them from the university?
Well, physically, look, it could still be within the campus if you like it, but it has to be very much away from the academic, operations. All right. I want to go back to the strategy. So, like I said, setting up an enterprise follows the same fundamental strategies. The first thing that we looked into, or that I looked into, was obviously what you guys would call it, maybe product leadership. You have to define your product very early, or services. What exactly do you want to promote or to sell? And one of the things that I also discovered was that as much as most of the universities would have that particular product leadership in terms of the services and the product that they want to sell, they don't really understand their targets. So who are you targeting? Government? Is it individuals? Is it, and I like what you're saying, Ashley, that sometimes I always say, for low-hanging fruits, understand your environment. So in their case, it's more catering, it's more food, business. That makes sense. Then the second one, which is something that also a blend that most of the universities don't look into, and something very close to my heart, is obviously customer intimacy. So we tend to actually come up with all these products and services, but we don't have customer care, or we don't understand the touch point. And I like what Ashley was saying earlier, to say that in his area, he looked at people with expertise who can actually run with those. So if you don't have it internally, rather give it to experts who can actually run it for you. Customer service is very, very important, because it's something that we don't sometimes understand very well as universities. Then the other pillar is obviously, and this is a very difficult one, all right, is the whole thing around operational excellence. Who does what? Okay, my understanding is that for an enterprise to be successful, obviously the suppliers has to be the academic, the colleges, right? But sometimes you find that there are challenges. You have to go outside. You have to, if you're doing catering or food, you have to go to the hotel, type setup that understand that type of business. So it's very critical as well, Africa, that so there's quite a lot. I'm trying to actually explain that there's quite a lot of work that goes into this. And all this is sitting on a very critical stakeholder engagement or stakeholder relationship management. So one thing that I find myself having to do almost all the time is to engage with different departments and colleges and chairmen of different committees in trying to explain exactly what I'm doing.
Because at the moment, and we were talking about a little earlier, that UNISA only enjoys 3% of its entire revenue being third stream.
Yes.
And that 3% is divided up into a multitude of little colleges and heads of departments doing their own separate things. It's not, there isn't a unified strategy and vision to realize an amount which hopefully will be more than 3% soon.
No, absolutely. But then, like I said, you'll understand the focus wasn't so much about third stream income.
Yeah.
The focus was academic and teaching,
Yeah.
and that was that. And I understand. And for me, it's beautiful because it can only get better.
What's your goal? What's your aim?
So in terms of the service revenue, you're looking at around 50 million next year, all right? And then
And that's possible, isn't it? I mean, this is not just a...
highly achievable. No, it's well highly achievable. Remember, I'm being measured on this, so I have to make sure that I get it right. So then 2020, you're looking at around, and this is a big jump, by the way. It might be a little bit scary, but I'll tell you how we're going to achieve it. So you're looking at around 150 million. And
Sure.
yeah, and I'll tell you why. So there's still an understanding that we have to, remember I spoke about policy. We have to inherit short courses or short learning programs. It is still sitting with the colleges. So if obviously that, and that's what I'm fighting for, because according to our definition, third stream is everything outside tuition and subsidy, but also including short learning programs. So it is still sitting with the colleges. And if that comes, then the target becomes very easy. But there's a whole lot of other verticals that I can talk about.
I have to say that at UCT we exclude short courses.
There we go.
You exclude short courses.
So the number I'm giving you excludes short courses. Because if I had to add that now, then I can add another 50 million immediately.
Easy.
But surely, Ashley, if you include short courses, the academics and the schools that do those short courses are going to, they do it to generate income for
I
their
was
own
about to
school.
say, so if I'm doing a short course in marketing,
yeah.
surely the marketing department
Yeah.
is the one that
And they
then-
pay the expenses and they carry the whole burden. So they would not want to share that.
So that's a story for another day. I mean,
Oh,
we're embarking
there
on
we
that
are.
right now. But purposefully on our side, we separated from the academic project. There are three areas. You can have commercial development completely on its own, which is the target at the moment for us. Then you can have the bridge to the academic project, and that will be short courses and online learning, as an example. Then there's a bridge to research, where you create the spin-out companies from the research that the academics generate. And so I play a very important role in that area as well. But when we start talking about commercial development, I immediately leave out those two arms. But they are a very important link to commercial development. But we will do that in a second phase. The first phase is to establish true commercial development, which is non-academic, the non-academic project.
So the private hospital at Grootskier is that in any way part of what you're doing, or is that a completely
That
separate?
is completely separate. And we have a lung institute is completely separate from what I'm talking about here. But those are the linkages.
Absolutely.
And our university hospital is not as profitable as it should be. Why? Because it lacks the commercial and the business thinking within that enterprise. But
So should there be no, for example, the two hotels that you made reference to are run by Protea Hotel Group,
Correct.
right, which is owned by Marriott.
Yes.
So therefore you have professionals who know how to do this,
Absolutely.
doing this. Should, well, I don't know, Mediclinic, Life, Healthcare, whatever, those groups not be going in there and running that hospital for UCT?
So the answer is yes, and we have a linkage with Netcare as an example. But still, the real operations of the hospital is not as effective as it should be. And those are areas for me in the second, third phase where we can put our expertise into those entities and ensure that they're profitable and let them run like a business. From a Netcare perspective, it's something on the side. From a UCT perspective, it's within the health sciences faculty. It's not a business that's focused upon, but lots of money to be made.
Heather, in your presentation before lunch, you were talking about fundraising and sources where you could go to for fundraising. And one of the pivotal points you made was that more and more vice chancellors are now required to actually go out and do that fundraising. How, from what you know, how is this the way things are done overseas, where there will be a very healthy commercial enterprise development unit? There'll be a very dedicated, very hopefully successful fundraising arm that are almost operating independently of, quite frankly, the delivery of curriculum so that students can graduate.
I must tell you, though, that I'm only talking about the United States of America and Great Britain. But certainly, definitely, we're seeing up to 55% of the time for a vice chancellor being allocated towards fundraising. And then there's another percentage towards marketing and public relations. And they're measured against those things. And that's now spilt over into England. And who would believe it that 10 years ago, for the first time ever, Oxford and Cambridge were definitely going out and fundraising. They were looking for money, and they knew what they wanted the money for. Yes, I think it is an increase, but I don't think all vice chancellors are born to do this. I think it's quite hard. I've heard very senior, accomplished academics say to me, "Oh, Heather, I find it so embarrassing asking." And it is. It can be very, very difficult for you. You take your personality and your development and everything about you with you wherever you go. And some people find it very, very hard.
Whereas if you have a product or a service that you're now offering, so it's not only a case of give me 20 million rand because I want to build that building, but guess what? Buy into this, and we'll be able then to obviously both benefit in some way or the other.
Completely different ballgame, because you haven't got that. I mean, it is hard for some people to ask. I just believe that if you're passionate, the asking is the easiest part. And if you're a passionate vice chancellor or a passionate academic, the asking is easy.
Can be the easy part, yeah. Now, Wits is lucky enough to be located in the heart of the business center, some would argue, of not only the country, but certainly the continent. UCT has these pristine views and property that it's sitting on that it can obviously capitalize. UNISA, not so much. It's sort of I mean, the main campus is very 70s architectural style, isn't it? That sort of goes on forever. And it's an indicator that you've now reached Pretoria. What assets do you have, natural attributes that you can take out there and start developing an enterprise development that's going to be successful?
You'd be amazed that, obviously if you look at UNISA, we have some of the best halls as well, that some of the facilities. In fact, we are hosting quite a lot of external parties at UNISA, at different campuses. But one of the verticals that one is looking to develop is exactly that, to start, looking at conference centers, to start building campus, student campuses and stuff. Our verticals are quite interesting. In fact, I always talk about minimal viable products because obviously you can't do all these things all at once. But if you look at our verticals, I mean, we have student solutions, we have staff solutions, and there's a very interesting project that goes into there. You have obviously some of those conference centers. We have quite a lot of land. UNISA has quite a lot of land that has been donated to UNISA. We can do quite a lot there as well. Some of our verticals, you're looking at consultancy services. We're even looking to consult, obviously for UNISA, in that sense, to UNISA. You're looking at catering in our case as well. You're looking at bus services to a certain extent. I mean, UNISA is paying quite a lot of money, just ferrying stuff from one campus to another. I mean, quite a lot of money there. So there's quite a lot of things that we can actually use, or different verticals that we can actually use to
It's a
generate
question
that.
I'll ask Ashley, I'll ask you as well. How do you ensure that all of this happens? You realize the profitable success you need to realize without it being a strain on universities' resources.
The strategy goes back to what I was saying earlier. So there has to be MVP, minimal viable product. You have to basically plot this thing and understand that this is where I'm starting, low-hanging fruits, like Ashley was saying. And that's exactly that. So it's very exciting, yes, you can, but we're looking at the products that we can do now, and he spoke about student solutions in terms of the catering. There are some of the things that we're looking into as well. I spoke about buses. That's something that we can do almost immediately, So yeah, you have to sort of understand the whole pot, but start, with the verticals that you know very well that you can be able to develop in a short term, and then eventually medium and long term.
Cool. Now, Ashley, I know you've brought an example with you that you'd like to show the delegates.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Africa. I want to give the audience an example of what we created this year. And so during 2016, we identified the possibility of setting up a food business at UCT. The opportunities were absolutely huge. There's about 200 million rands worth of revenue that flows through UCT when it comes to food. And all of the profitability from that food moves outside of UCT. So the whole idea of a food business was born in 2016. Myself and two colleagues, we went to America last year, and more specifically, we had a look at what's happening at Stanford. We also visited quite a few of the universities in South Africa, just to get a sense as to what they're doing, the benefits on their side, what we were lacking at UCT, what were the advantages at UCT. And then we embarked on a process last year of compiling a business plan, a very comprehensive business plan, first and foremost to convince our management team and our executive, then to take that through our finance committee. And please believe me, it wasn't easy. There's lots of people within academia who's against commercialization. I managed to get it through the finance committee, and then at the end of December last year, took it through council, and then got the go-ahead. So this was in the first week of December, and at the beginning of January, while I was still on leave, the team started the project. We formed the company, formed the bank account, started surrounding ourselves with professionals, and put the project together. And early in July this year, we then launched our first store at UCT. 6 weeks later, we opened another additional 8 stores. Next year, we're going to open 20 stores.
Wait. So within a few months, you went from 1 store
to 9 stores.
To 9 stores.
And then in another year, we'll have 30 stores. And then we're going to, in the second phase, we're going to move to catering, and we're going to then give the catering to all residences. We are pushing now that every meeting at UCT must buy their food from our food company, as an example. But I'm going to ask the gentleman just to showcase the store that we opened in July, which got the go-ahead in December last year.
The video, please.
That's a big.
That's incredible. You're not charging Woolworths prices, are you?
So absolutely not. To be honest with you, when the store opened, I popped down to the store and I bought for my colleagues 4 cappuccinos, and 4 pastries. So generally speaking, if I had to ask you, Africa, four cappuccinos, 4 pastries, generally how much would it cost
Well,
you?
4 cappuccinos on their own, depending on when you buy it, will be anything between 100 and 120 rand.
Yeah.
And then pastries, 30 rand a pastry, perhaps. Mind you, I live in the center of town and not thingy. So I would imagine, what, 200, 250 rand?
So that was 108 rand.
108 rand.
108 rand. And so what we're also doing at the moment, wastage. There's a lot of wastage when it comes to catering for meetings. And I've seen the wastage with these platters, lovely platters. So what we're trying to strive for now within meetings at UCT, that we have lunch boxes. So a little juice and a salad and maybe a bit of protein and a bit of a dessert. So all of that, which is quite filling and no wastage because everybody gets allocated. So we move that at 57 rand. 57 rand
impressive.
per person, as an example.
Now, it was a long time since I was last at UCT, and the location of that very first Food and Connect was where old Captain Dorego used to be, if memory serves. Are you displacing current small business owners who are obviously making money from selling food to your student
So that's
population?
that's quite an interesting angle. So what we're doing is, first and foremost, from a labor perspective, we're incorporating all of the labor of those vendors within UCT, first and foremost. Then we're utilizing the labor, the business owners, to become supply agents for the bigger food business. So a food vendor may have been selling fruit and veg, as an example, to through his very, very, I would imagine, unsophisticated store. What the opportunity we're going to offer a business owner like that now, become the supplier of fruit and veg to 30 stores. So we then also do the ESD, enterprise and supply development. So from a triple B perspective, we will grow that aspect, but we will grow their businesses, and we will begin to control the business ethics and how they run a business, but give them the captive audience of 30,000 students and 6,000 staff. And at the same time, we employ their staff, pay them at a better rate, and treat them as better employees. So it's a win-win on all fronts.
So this is a model you like, right? I mean, you can take this to UNISA tomorrow and hopefully have it realized within a short period of
Or
time.
we can do it at UNISA.
See,
I suppose.
you know, absolutely, and that's the low-hanging fruits I was talking about. You have staff solutions, and this is part of the staff student solutions actually that I was talking about. And there's quite more stuff that you can do as well. I mean, think about concierge, think about cleaning services, think about a whole lot of things that people need. So it's not only about food. You have this staff and students that are sitting there looking for services, and quite honestly, you can provide for such services quite easily.
You reference student housing as one of the verticals that you are exploring. Once again, you're going into a space in development that requires quite a lot of capital expenditure at the beginning, in the hope that you realize a return over often a long period of time. Tell us about how you're looking to approach that.
Hence why I'm saying for us, we're talking about a convertible loan agreement. So I have my own budget, and some of the budget is exactly for that, capital expenditure. So we just have to obviously then identify the product, obviously the opportunities, and push those. So it's a separate budget altogether.
For sure. By show of hands, quick question. How many of you are already looking into enterprise commercial development within your university spaces? And what sort of examples can you share with the delegates in terms of what you're doing at your university? Are you looking at commercial enterprise development at your universities?
Africa,
There's
we
one
can
right
set
at
it
the
up
back
for them
Oh,
at
sorry.
a nominal fee.
There's a hand right there from the University of the Western Cape.
Thanks.
Do we need this?
Thanks, Africa. At UWC, I think we've embarked on a similar sort of road, if you like, potentially not as structured as UCT at the moment, possibly on the same sort of road that UNISA is taking. But the types of enterprise development opportunities that we've been looking at would be short courses, continuing education, running it like a business, looking at small forms of pockets of student accommodation, management consulting, a lot of our venue management. So we've also got quite a couple of verticals, but I think we're still at the initial stages of building those into solid businesses, if you like. But the thinking needs to change. So I think some of the challenges which I've shared with one or two of the colleagues already has been around getting our academic community to buy into the concept of commercialization. Just on the point of commercialization as well, we've got a PTY as well that we've set up specifically to look at IP commercialization and trying to see how we can. And I think I've been lambasted for this by saying look at demand-driven research, so that you have a product that you could potentially sell in the future. So we are having the conversations already at this stage, and we're working towards models that are similar to what we're hearing already.
So is some of the resistance from your academics the notion that if you tell me that I need to go to Coca-Cola to go find some money to research, I don't know, the impact of sugar, that will in some way question the integrity of the research output I'm putting out there?
I think I wouldn't brush all the academics with the same brush, because there are those that understand that research money or money for research is drying up. So we need to be a bit more innovative in terms of our research. So as an example, we've got a group of academics that a couple of years ago already started looking at battery storage solution products. So that's that side of the academic community that would do that. But at the same time, you would have the academic community that says universities should never have pressure to go in a certain direction. It should be free thought. And so they would say, don't use terms like stakeholders or talk about customers. And so you have that dynamic playing itself out on campus, and it's something that we just probably need to continuously work on, so that we can get people to see that whatever income we generate goes back into the development of the campus for the benefit of staff, students, and research. And it's just the mindset change that needs to happen a bit more, I think a bit quicker.
No, for sure. Any other institution that'd like to offer a word or two, including perhaps what are some of the challenges you are facing or having to contend with in trying to establish a commercial enterprise development office? Shall we hear from UKZN and hear what you guys are doing? Anyone from there who can offer something? Right here. Is there any way we can get a bit more house lights up? Because the brights on the stage are making it... thanks.
Hi.
Now we can hear you.
We have a separate company, a PTY Limited, where all the rented commercial spaces that we have throughout the 5 campuses are processed through that particular company. We are looking to also introduce more enterprise development and put it into that particular separate company. So it will be focused entirely on external third stream income.
And I mean, something as, I say it's simple, I appreciate there was a lot of work getting into it, but something as simple as taking over the shops, or some of them at least anyway, on campus that sell food to your student body and your employees is something that's attractive to you, right?
Yes, that sounds very interesting. I was very impressed with what UCT have done. We will steal some of their ideas.
Actually, you should be willing to share open source sort of platform.
Absolutely, we are so willing to share
Shared services.
shared services as well.
Cool, that was UKZN, thank you. Nelson Mandela, is there any representative from there? University of Johannesburg, what are you doing? Is there no UJ representative in the house? Central University of Technology? I'm going to have to point at tables now if none of these people are responding to this. If someone can perhaps share with us, what is the difficulty that you're going through in your university that you don't even have this kind of thing happening? So what do you need to overcome? Perhaps my panel members can help you with that, or people in the office, I mean in the room can help you with that. Is there anyone who has tried, knocked, put together a business plan, but has people and academics saying to them, no, not on our watch? At the end there, good sir.
Hi, thank you. I'm Raisibe from CPUT. From us, it's not about academics being difficult. The challenge that we face is the expertise, I can say. And it's in terms of catering, the residents. We are not even in the initial stage. We are in the crawling stage of trying to see what we can do. And it's sad because if you think about it, our students are suffering. They have to cross the road, go to our nearest university to look for services. So it's actually huge. It's huge than we're talking about it now.
When you say that you don't have access to expertise, because Ashley at UCT, for example, went outside of the university environment to go and get expertise in those areas to come in and
Yes.
help with the enterprise development. Are you finding that difficulty, that you're not able to attract the kind of person you want to look after that kind of project for CPUT?
Yes, actually the truth is we actually copy them or they are assisting us to get somewhere. So that's the part of it. Maybe next year we'll be able to say we have 3 shops, UCT has helped us, so we are in those stages.
Then help them find a specialist who can
No,
go
absolutely.
into
So
CPUT.
we invited CPUT across to UCT, I think it was last month.
Yes.
Robin, it was last month. There was a big contingent. We shared all our learnings with them.
Yes.
We offered to walk the journey with them. If it means we open a Food and Connect at CPUT, that's what we'll do. But we believe that if you put the sector hat on, there's a win-win for all.
Yeah.
Students win, staff win, all the universities win, the Department of Higher Education wins, everybody wins. We're surprised that the mini ecosystem that we have within universities. There's a lot of millions flowing through universities. And if we recognize the opportunities, and all we do is allow the funds to flow within the university, not outside the university, we actually make the money ourselves. At the moment, we are running businesses and we don't even know we're running businesses inside of universities. The only difference is that money is going outside, and what we are trying to do is to locate the money inside of the ecosystem. But if you bring the expertise into the university, then it works. And so for us to help other universities will benefit us and will benefit the sector.
Without a doubt. There was a hand at the back there again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Africa. I think I just wanted to add something which I forgot to add earlier, and one or two of the delegates on the stage made this point about having kickstart capital, if you like. And one of the challenges I face in our space is capacity. And so the difficulty is the chicken and egg situation, because when you're trying to get the university to see the benefits of commercial opportunities in the future, you need them to be able to say, we will allocate capital to hiring expertise, to hiring experts and staff to run those businesses. And the problem is they want to first see the benefits of the income before they're going to invest in that. And so sometimes you have a tussle between the academic community that would like the funds to go to, the limited funds, to go to research or CapEx investment on campus, versus saying we'll put that same money into a commercial venture. And so that kickstart capital is actually quite important. And I think in our space, possibly that's one of the other challenges we have, getting that capital to get the capacity, the staff, to actually run some of these verticals in a more effective and efficient way and get it done quicker.
Africa, can I just... sorry.
Sorry, just a follow-up point there. So that capital would come from where? From universities' budget, right? So it probably means that it's going to have to be taken away from another line item and ring-fenced for this particular purpose.
So hypothetically, I would go to the exec to say we need to hire a manager/director to run, let's say, our rental of space business, one to run management consulting, whatever it might be. That means you need to allocate, whether it's 500,000 to $1 million for a salary there, and you have to promise them that we're going to try and make that money back via selling enough services. And I think that's some of the challenging conversations we have. Can we take that money that could have gone to research, innovation, or somewhere else on campus and put it in this new venture?
However, there's
because as-
another way of looking at it, and that is if this is one of the university's priorities, and if it's totally endorsed, we know we've got to do this, you actually go out and fundraise to do it, and you raise funds to be your seed money to kickstart it. So that way you're not taking money from any other division. It takes a little longer, but it sounds to me as time may be the one thing that you've got.
Actually, I have noted you. Are there funders willing to give universities money
Definitely, very
for
definitely.
this kind of...
Because they're saying this is going to, it's not ever going to stop your reliance on us for our funding, but it's going to reduce it. So we will empower you so that you become more powerful to fund yourselves.
Do you think that will be a much easier sell than saying, give me money for a building? So if I go to, you made reference to Anglo-American, for example, in your earlier talk, and I say to Anglo-American, instead of giving me money for this building that will teach new technology around mining, and you can still give for that if you want, but guess what? If you give me this amount of money for the university to start an enterprise development office, imagine what the long-term benefit
With
will be for
enormous
that
spin-off
university.
to the whole institution. I believe so. I believe it, instead of asking for an allocation from a heavily drained budget already, within a year to 18 months, with really good research and work, you could at least have commitment for funding, which would free you up.
Exactly.
I think Africa also is how you
I
build-
haven't forgotten you, actually, I promise.
Sorry, I'm saying it's also how you actually build the structure, because you'll see that the structure can be multifunctional. So you can still have whatever that you need to, the money for, but below you can have a commercial hub. Okay, so also there has to be a balance in a way to actually go back to what you've just said in saying, look, there will be some money coming as well, because people don't want to be giving all the time,
And would you, as Tsabiso,
Yeah.
be willing to then go to UNISA, say, give me the opportunity to show you what I can do. If we have an agreement in place, I'll go out and seek the funding that will then become the seed capital for you to be able to do what you need. Is that even a possibility?
Absolutely. In fact, that's the approach. So you'll see that the funding that we have now is just to get us started, but then that's how we're going to generate seed funding actually.
How many of you are there?
So
There's him and him and him.
it's a one-man show right now, but I have a lot of support obviously from my colleagues at UNISA. But I'm looking to start with 17 people next year.
17
So I'm in the
people.
So one of the things
That's
that we have to
quite
do as well is, obviously I had to go through the whole job grading and HR policy, because it has to be a little bit different from, the academic type HR policy. It's been a lot of work.
And this will all be independent of the university. So these are all people employed by you. All HR policies are yours and all of that, or are they employees of the university?
Independent, totally absolutely.
Independent. All right. Which is not the case for you, because the gentleman that you are inviting to now from the industry, from tourism, will be actually employee of UCT, right? As opposed to a separate entity altogether.
Yeah, so I think it's important to note that strong and robust financial policy underpins the way you run a university and underpins how you run a business. So first and foremost, one must never utilize the general operating budget to fund these things. So funding is a different mechanism. And so let's just unpack funding as an example. So as a policy at UCT, I strive to keep between 20 and 30% of our operational costs in the bank. So cash is important. You can never execute if you don't have cash. So cash is important. So your underpinning of financial policy must end up with cash in the bank. That's the one component. Then you have to leverage your balance sheet to raise funding. So UCT, as an example, was averse to loan funding. And I had to convince the council 2 years ago to actually enter into a loan facility. And we managed to get one of R1 billion with the DBSA. But the fundamentals of spending that money, you can only be spent on projects that will be financially sustainable. So that's the strong financial policy,
Yes.
right? So we will not build a lecture theatre with that funding, but we'll build a business with that funding. But what underpins that business will be a strong business plan and how you're going to sell that project. So where you get the cash from is just a function of what funding mechanism you're going to use. So loan is there, your free cash considering your financial policy, that's an important component. When putting this into your budget, the one policy I said was that if I'm going to employ somebody in commercial development, it will have a nil effect on the budget. Absolute nil effect. So if I spend 3 million, I must make 3 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one fundamental. In looking at the finance department, another fundamental we drive at UCT is that, and this is the reason why I put commercial development in finance, is that the whole finance department that services the university must be self-sustainable, which means we make money through commercial development to fund. So everybody we employ eventually will be covered by the commercial development. And so those are, what I'm trying to stress is that there has to be very strong and robust finance policy within businesses as well as the institution.
All right. Now, you're already working with CPUT. I'm going to invite you that next year you give a report back on how CPUT is doing in becoming a strong enterprise development thing, and you will share as much as you can open software policy for other universities and institutions to start doing this. A warm round of applause, please, for our panel. Heather Reganes, fundraising specialist, Thabiso Letsoala, the CEO of newly established UNISA Enterprise, and Ashley Francis, executive director for finance at UCT.